Hi, everyone. This is Diane Keough. I'm happy to kick off the May I2B2 Transmart community meeting. It's been a while since we've actually had a community meeting. We had AMIA meetings and lots of other stuff in between. So happy to have this meeting today. So you can go to the next slide, Jeff. All right, so here's our agenda. I'm going to quickly give a couple of general updates around the foundation, and then we're going to jump into a more in-depth conversation about what's coming in 1.8.2. Jeff will go over some of the features, and Anupama will actually do a demo of our main feature, and Kavi will talk about the development we're doing around creating a Docker for I2B2, which is pretty exciting. So next slide. One more. All right. So I hope everyone on the phone is planning on either coming or joining remotely our June 9th and 10th symposium. I'm pretty excited about this the agenda this year. So I'll walk through the agenda quickly if you haven't seen it. We have almost 400 people that have registered so far for the conference, which is kind of I think more than we've had in the past. So it's pretty exciting. We've got Zach Ohani will be our keynote speaker again this year. He's very excited about this keynote, and his title is Human Values Project, the AI we want for the research we need. So I'm looking forward to that. And then following that, next slide. So following his keynote, and I'm just going to quickly walk through this. I'm not going to go through this in a lot of detail, but just to give you a flavor of the agenda. So we'll have the keynote, and then Zach will moderate a panel around the future of I2B2 and large language models. And we've got some pretty great panelists, and I think with Zach moderating, it should be pretty fun. And then we move to the next slide, Jeff. Then we're going to jump into an in-depth conversation around computational phenotypes, federated learning with Griffin and Tadshi Kai. And then we'll have another network panel that will include a number of different networks. One is the ENACT network, of course, mass CPR, which Griffin had talked about before, federated learning, which is something that is new and exciting, and Sean will lead that, and then a discussion. And then we'll jump into more of a discussion around what's coming in I2B2. Next slide. Some general updates from the working groups, some talking about ontologies and supporting additional data domains. Then we'll have kind of a fun debate that Sean and others have put together with 3 panelists that are going to be debating federated versus centralized networks. So I'm looking forward to kind of an interesting debate on that. The day 2, you can move to the next slide. Day 2 is going to be more of a technical, deeper dive and hands-on. So the first session will be around machine learning and computational phenotypes and loyalty cohorts. And this will be a deeper dive for people that really want to understand, how to actually implement this at your own hospital. So this will we give you some good information. We actually have a number of organizations that have adopted computational phenotypes over the past year. So we're hoping to get a network of hospitals up and running. So that will be fun. And then the second hands-on will be Sean and his group will be doing a large language model, a hands-on exercise where people will actually go in and set up the environment and start to play with, obviously data to search for patient notes. So that should be fun. And then next slide. The second hands-on will be Hussein and Jonas, who will be doing their hands-on around using some algorithms that they've developed to identify patient-specific conditions around COVID And these algorithms could be used for other things as well. They've done this before, and I think it's going to be pretty fun. So that's the symposium. And I hope you register. I'll send you. I'll paste a link into the chat in a few minutes. And then our working groups. You can go to the next slide. This is always just something I like to mention. We have the ontology working group, which is extremely active. A lot going on in that group. The UI working group and the committee on technology. We have retired the ETL working group for now. And we may actually spin up another working group as the needs apply. And then one more thing I wanted to mention. So there are a number of people out there that know a lot about I2B2 that are willing to help support the community. So I wanted to take this time. We'll start to post some of these folks on our website. But go ahead and move to the next slide. So I just wanted to give a shout out for Mark Abajian, who is a person that had worked at an organization with I2B2, became expert, and now has his own consulting group. So he can help with large projects, small projects, troubleshooting, you name it. So again, I'll be posting information around Mark and others on our website to provide as a resource. So with that, I'll hand it off to Jeff.
All right, thanks, Dan. Go from doing a mediocre job of going through slides to talking about slides. So I2B2 1.8.2, we're burning the midnight oil trying to get this thing out. We are nearly finished with it. The final version will be out early this summer. There's a lot of data export stuff happening, but there's other things happening in 1.8.2 that I wanted to bring people's attention to also. We are now supporting and requiring Wildfly 34 and access to V2. We've also upgraded other libraries that are just internal to I2B2, like Spring. So all of those changes then necessitate going to Java 17. So anyone who's using Java 8 or 11 in order to run I2B2 1.8.2, you'll have to go to 17, but it's all in the name of security and being up to date with the latest things. The features in 1.8.2, the total num scripts that many people use to get counts of their patients appearing next to the ontology items. A faster version was written that uses transitive closures in SQL Server, and that appeared in 1.8.1. Now we've got Postgres and Oracle versions in 1.8.2. We've, of course, made bug fixes, performance improvements. Michelle has been hard at work on Act Ontology v4.2. We will include, I have a slide on that next. And then, of course, we have this incredible new data export workflow with custom table designer and data export manager that we will spend a bit more time on. So Act Ontology 4.2 is kind of an iterative upgrade. It moves us to UMLS 2024 AB, though I think Michelle said that there's a newer UMLS that just came out yesterday that will be the eventual target for 4.2. It's an upgrade of diagnosis, medication procedures, social determinants of health, and that the only functional change is the social determinants of health from additional fields. And then the data export. So in 1.8.1, we built the first pass at doing advanced I2B2 data export, where users, it could be configured so that users could select a data request when they ran a query and to request I2B2 fact table data, like medications, procedures, diagnoses, labs. And then the manager would get this request. They could then rerun the query and click data export, and it would create CSV files of all of those things. This has been enhanced in 1.8.2 in major ways. So now you can design a custom table, and Anupama will walk you through all of this. You can design a custom table and then make a data request. Then there's a whole tool for managers to manage those data requests. And you can then get your custom table CSV on the bottom there as the main output form. But all the 1.8.1 exports have been integrated into this as well. So you can also get your fact table outputs. So that is the major work that Anupama will give a demo of. And it is coming in the summer, earlier in the summer than later in the summer, probably June 1.8.2. And I guess I will stop the slideshow and then pass it to Anupama.
Great. Thanks, Jeff. So I'll be demoing the workflow that Jeff just described. So this is the steps a researcher would take to specify to create specifications for how they want their data to be exported. And then it also is a workflow. The second step, which is to actually make that request. So selecting a patient set and actually making a request for that data. And then the third step is where a manager who is a manager of that project who can view the request, make sure it falls within the IRB purview, and then actually click a button to generate the data files. So it's an end-to-end workflow where it happens all in the tool so that it's transparent from each phase of the workflow where the data request is at a given point. So first, when I log into the tool, I'll log in as the researcher. So I'm going to go here. Just move this out of the way. Oops. 1 second. Let me try to troubleshoot what's happening. It's just working a few minutes ago. All right, let's see if this works. Okay, so I am logged in. Hopefully I'm in the right project. Yep, I'm in the right project. But I don't have an ontology. Sorry, Jeff, let me figure out what's going on here. Maybe my setup might not work. Okay, there we go. It's loaded now. All right, my ontology is here. I'm selected into the right project. Okay, so the first step, like I mentioned, is to actually create the data table. So I'm going to navigate over to the tool tabs here, and I'll see this list of plugins that are available to me. So I'll just note that I currently am logged in as a researcher role, and I have the LDS data access role. So I go here, and then you'll notice that there's this new plugin called Create Data Table for Export. And when I click on it, it's going to load this table that has some default concepts. So these are just demographic concepts that are part of a default table definition. And these are customizable by sites. So sites can make a choice of which concepts to include as default or not include any at all. And so to continue creating this table definition, it's as easy as dragging concepts from the ontology over to the panel, and then the table will automatically add them to this specification table. So it's very similar to when you're in the Find Patient tabs and you're trying to create a patient cohort. So it's a very similar action here. So you can drill down to each of the different code domains and drag over concepts. If I pick some of a lab test, it does the same. Maybe it's electrolytes, bicarbonate. I can specify values for them. I'm just going to make up a value here. And that value is set here. So for each concept that you drag over, you can specify the date range for it. You can specify one of these aggregation options. And then for laboratory values, there might be more that appear here. So you can select any of these and then just continue to build out your table specification to what you would need it to be. And to give a sense of what this table might look like, so when you go to preview table, this is actually the format that your when you get the data, how it will appear. So each row is meant to be a individual patient record. So this is patient 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then for each patient, these are the data you're getting from them. So you're getting those default columns if you wanted to include them. And then for each of the aggregation types, you can hover over it and it tells you the aggregation method up here that you selected for that particular column. So for allergy, it's just whether a yes, no, whether it exists. For bicarbonate blood, you know that whether it exists and it has to be this value for it. So this gives you a instant feedback. You know, if you want to go ahead and make changes to your table design, you can make the changes here, and then the preview table will just give you a real-time view of what your export will look like. So you're not trying to guess what's actually included or excluded. So once you're done creating your table design, you can go up here and save the table. So I'm going to call this demo table 7. And you'll notice something here. So there's multiple folders that I can share my table to. So as a researcher, I can save this table definition to my own private folder. So these are just my tables I've created for my own view. Here I have another folder called the project shared table. So because I logged into this particular project, I can save tables into this folder. And if they're saved to this folder, any user who is also assigned to this project can also view and edit those table definitions. So in this example, I'd already created some other user as part of the project has created this demo table A. But I'm going to go ahead and save this to my table folder. And I'll hit save, and then you'll notice up here, we now are showing you the name of the table and the folder that the table is saved into. Say, for example, I want to go ahead and load a pre-existing table definition. I just click this load button, and now you'll notice there's this third folder that's available to me. So this concept of a system shared tables are templates that are created by the admin user role. And the idea is that these templates are visible across this I2B2 instance. And so I can click this and load this table definition, and it gives me a starting point for the table definition. And I can go ahead and edit this, again, drag and drop concepts, specify values, and then I can save it, again, either to a project folder or to a My Tables folder. And the reason this is crossed out here is because the system share tables, users can only download the templates and but they can't save it to the system shared folders. These are, again, just templates that are available as starting points for defining the specification. So that's step 1. That's creating the table definition. So once you're done creating the table definition, now you need to make a data request. So I'm just going to clear this out. So the first thing we do, as you do in the Find Patients tab, is you would try to define your patient cohort. So I'm just going to drag a very generic concept here. And then here, when I go to Find Patients, this is the step where you actually the user will make that data request. And so in my run query window, I'll select my patient set. There's an improvement that we'll have to make sure this is auto selected. And then down here, there's this new section called data request. And so here the user will have to enter their email. If the system is aware of their email, it will be pre-filled. There's a field to enter optional comments, and this is a way that the researcher can communicate specific information about this request. They might want to include their IRB number. And then down here are the list of table definitions that were created. So you'll notice that it includes those table definitions that Jeff showed as part of 1.8.1. So these definitions are now integrated into this workflow. And then you'll notice here that the folders that were part of the project folder are listed with a prefix, and then folders that the user created has its own view, has its own prefix here. So I'm just going to go ahead and select a table, and I'm going to run this query. Let me open this up so you can see the previous query here. So now you know that the query is run. We have the data export details down here, which tells you the table that you selected. And so I've now officially made my data request. And now the next question is, I want to track where that data request is. How do I know its status, if it got sent? So now there's another plugin that we created called the Data Request Manager plugin. So this is the second plugin that's part of this workflow. And when I click this plugin, it's going to give me, as this researcher, a list view of all of the data requests I've made. And so it's a really useful tool because I know that I can tell exactly what data request I created and the status of those data requests. I can also go in here and view the information for that specific request. I can click this button and it will load this table definition. So as a reference, so I know exactly what concepts I included. I can click this button here and it will actually reload the query that I ran to the patient set that I included with this specific request. And then down here, I have some actions I take. If I know that I maybe made this request by mistake, I can withdraw the request, which will change its status. We have a log here where you can see how the request is making its way through the workflow. And I can also add comments here. And this comment is shared across the request. So when I log in as a manager, you will see that comment coming through. And so at this point, as a researcher, I've specified the table definition, I've made the request, and now I'm sort of monitoring to see if there's an update on when this data file would be available to me. And so at that point, that's this handoff where now the manager of the project will log in. So that's what I'm going to do next. All right, and I'm going to select the same project, project 9. So now I'm logged in as the manager. So I'll go ahead and navigate to the tools. And just to show you that the manager of the project is similar rules. They can also create tables. They can load a table definition from that shared project folder because they are a manager of the project. But the important thing here is now that the manager, the request has been handed over to the manager, I'm going to log in as that plugin, the Data Request Manager plugin. All right. And in this view, you'll notice it's slightly different from the researcher view. So these are all the data requests that were made for this particular project. So when I was logged in as the researcher, I only had 2 requests, but now as the manager, I'm seeing all the requests that have come through. And the most recent one at the top. And so I'll see that this was the name of the previous query. This was the table, the data table that was requested with it. And then I can immediately go ahead and make a request to trigger the file creation process. So I can do that from this table itself. And I can also go ahead and view the details of the request. And you'll see that's a very similar view to what the researcher had. Again, view the details of the request. If I want to reference them, I can reload the previous query. And you'll notice here some differences. So as a manager, I can also deny the request if there's something wrong with like the IRB, or I can also go ahead and add additional comments here. So again, a way to just communicate with the researcher. So for this example, I'm going to go ahead and create the data files. And so you'll get a confirmation just to make sure you clicked on the correct file. And you'll notice that once you clicked it, it disables the button and it's going through its workflow. You'll see that it's currently file available. So it skipped a step because it was pretty fast. And once the file, it tells you that the status is file available. And then once the actual file is available, this is how it would look like. It would give you a the path to the files. That's something that we're currently just working on some bugs to iron out. But that's sort of the end of the workflow, at least in the application. So the files will be successfully generated and there will be a link to the directory where the files are. And at that point, the the manager can go and actually grab hold of those files and then share them with a researcher, ideally through a secure enclave, and then the researcher would have access to the data. So I know I went through that pretty fast, but happy to take any questions. Yeah. If not, Jeff, I can also hand it over to you.
Well, one thing you might just go into a little bit is the how the projects kind of interact, right? In that, so currently in the 1.8.1, we don't really have a way to manage some of the aspects of projects. So most of the I2B2 sites put all the people in one project. And the problem then is that the managers don't have a chance to have a work group and then authorize the data exports. And so the vision going forward is that groups of researchers all accessing the same fundamental databases would be organized into projects and then with a manager or a few managers even, and then the managers would be able to authorize the release of data for the researchers in their group.
I think you were referring to the admin plugin, Sean.
Just overall in
Oh.
in what, how we envision, kind of the management of the data releases going forward, because obviously that puts I2B2 in a different realm of, not just querying de-identified data, but like, actually being able to release at least limited data sets.
Right. So here, just so to try to just reiterate what Sean is saying. So here, if there are multiple managers that are assigned to this particular project, we do display the approved by, so we'll know exactly which manager level user approved that request. And then we have this other tool, which I think it's currently we released in 1.8.1. Because I'm the manager, I don't have access to it. So let me log out and log back in as a different user. So right now I'm logging in as an admin user. And so in part of the admin user has this access to this admin dashboard plugin. And part of this plugin, and this is what Sean was talking about, is that we have a really streamlined way to add users to a project. So you can add the username, specify their emails here, and then you can create new projects, and then we have a really, again, a streamlined way to add users to that project. So this is still an admin capability, but we are trying to figure out in a later release how we can allow managers these privileges, so it's easier for managers to add users to a specific project and specify their data access role here.
Yep. Really nice, Anupama. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments?
Hi, this is Mark Abajian. Anupama, that was great demonstration. Thank you very much. Very informative, and looks like the new capabilities are really well thought out and well developed. Thank you.
Thank you. Always good feedback to hear.
Thanks, Mark. Just trying to keep you in business.
Thank you, Sean.
And so Jeff, when do you think this will come out? This is going to come out like summer, right? Is that what you
Summer.
said?
Summer timeframe, yeah. Hopefully earlier summer than late summer. We will be creating a beta if anyone wants to beta test it early June. That would be great. All right. Well, do you want me to walk through the slides, Avi? Did you want me to make you co-host?
Yeah, Jeff, there are just 3 slides. If you want, you can just show the slide.
Sure.
Next slide. So we're going to talk about why do we really require. So we see that there's a lot of active development happening on I2B2, and there are all these new features coming out, and sites would like to use them as soon as possible. But a lot of often it can be very challenging to install, to upgrade your existing installation of I2B2. And also there are 400 people for the I2B2 Transmart conference. Many of them would want to try out the platform. So how can people install I2B2 quickly, upgrade their existing I2B2 to a newer version? So we wanted to streamline that, and that's why we've been working on the I2B2 Docker ecosystem. And that's what it. And thirdly, apart from upgrading and installing, there's always a need for security. There are these days a lot of security threats happening, and so that we can quickly. So Docker system can be really helpful to even quickly address those security vulnerabilities and push a secure version out to the I2B2 instances, I2B2 deployments. So that is the goal of the I2B Docker system. So we have set up pipelines which can automatically pull the code from the GitHub, generate the Docker images, and deposit them in Docker Hub. And these Docker images are scanned for security vulnerabilities. And we have a vendor Persistent here who's kind of Persistent Systems is fixing those vulnerabilities and really making the updated Docker images available. So the vulnerabilities can be at the level of the code itself, or it can be at the level of the distribution, like the libraries which are distributed with it. So most of the time it can be sorted out by at the level of the libraries. But sometimes you need code fixes upstream. So this loop of updating the code base and pushing out binaries is the goal of the ecosystem. And there are a couple of use cases that we're targeting. One is that having a fresh Docker install or demo install quickly, and so we can do. We already have been supporting that use case for a long time, for the last 3-4 years, and that you can see. So we're putting some documentation together for that, for specifically addressing the use cases. Next slide. Yeah, and this is the documentation. So this is the top level use cases that we have in mind. Quick start, demo, install. So that's someone wants to install and just wants to try it out. Second one, the production install, where they usually have a database, and people don't want to use I2B2, don't want to use a Docker system for I2B2 for some reason, and they want to use a production database which is set up somewhere. Then this use case would help them do that. And third use case is upgrading, that you have an I2B2, how do you upgrade it? And also, if one can use some of the functionality in the Docker containers for administrating I2B2s, simplifying the administration of I2B2, that's the use case we're looking at. And lastly, people who want to contribute code, to make it easy for them to develop plugins or code, Docker systems can be really helpful for development. So how can you use the Docker system to write code and contribute code to I2B2 would be another use case, that we are thinking of. Jeff, next slide. Yeah, so this is a quick start example. Many of you must have tried it before. This has been around for almost 4 years now. So how to install I2B2 using 4 commands, just 2 commands. So the first command is you git clone the I2B2 Docker, to your Ubuntu instance. And so the only prerequisite is you should be running Ubuntu, and you should be having Docker installed on your machine. And you can just do git clone, and you can do Docker compose up. You have, this downloads the Docker, I2B2 Docker containers from Docker Hub, and you're ready to go in maybe a minute, and you're back end. So this is a quick start. So we would have similar fast templates for other use cases. So let me stop here and see if there are any thoughts and comments. So I want to tell you also that we have a meeting tomorrow where we're doing a deep dive on Docker. So we've got a 1-hour session tomorrow. You're invited to come, and we would like to have your feedback on how do you think Docker can be helpful for your I2B2 deployment. So let me stop here and see if there are any questions. Well, I don't think that I'm not hearing none. So tomorrow's session is is online, and it is going to be at, I'm just verifying the time. It's at noon. I think it's at noon. Yeah. So look forward to seeing you there if you want to follow up on that. Thanks.
Yeah, folks can just reach out to me or to Kavi if you want to be added. And Kavi, how often do you meet? Is it bi-weekly? Oh, you're muted.
So yeah, so this is it is monthly almost, and if there is enough interest, we could even make it like a working group. So the more feedback we have, and so the better it would be in terms of how we chart out the development and how we can be more helpful to the community.
Yeah, we're really putting a lot of emphasis on this because, well, one thing, security is just a huge concern, and we want to make sure we stay on top of security, but also just to make it easier for folks to be able to install a new I2B2 or install upgrades. I know people struggle. It's hard. It's documented, but sometimes the documentation is buried, so it's hard to dig it out. So we really think this is gonna make a big difference.
Hi, this is Mark Abajian. I have a question. So I think I remember at some point that when the Docker version came available, that was intended to be for demonstration, and there were suggestions to not use the Docker image for production. And I'm wondering, has that changed now? Maybe maybe I have a misconception about what it was intended for originally, but was it always for production, or are things changed now to make it more appropriate for production?
I can take a quick pass on that. So it was always a research project before, and but we have been using it. We've been using a Docker for some of the production use cases. And right now, the idea is to really make it like the default way of installing I2B2. But there's a little bit of distance to get there. We would like to try it out, but that is the intent, to make Docker like the default method of installing I2B2 and distributing it.
That sounds great. Thank you, Kavi.
Join our working group, Mark. Learn all about it. We'd love to have you. All right. Any other questions around Docker or around the 1.8.2 release that we presented? Any questions about anything that you'd like to bring up? Questions, suggestions? Who wants 10 minutes back from their 12 o'clock? Mark.
Hi, one last question. So regarding the Committee on Technology, is there a specific time of the month when they're meeting, or that hasn't been determined yet?
It has actually. We had to move it. It used to be the first Monday of the month. Now it's the first Thursday of the month.
Okay.
At 2 p.m. Eastern. That information will be on our website, and I'll promote that as we move forward. We're not going to have the meeting in June because of the symposium, a lot going on. So the first meeting will be July 3rd at 2 p.m. But it is included on or it will be in a day or so. It'll be included on our website. Yeah, and I really encourage folks to come to that. That's more of a general. It's a smaller. It's not that small. I mean, a number of people joined, but it's more interactive. We present topics, but we really would love to hear from the community. So on any topic. So please join or join it. Get it on your calendar on a regular basis, or pop in. It's fine for the working groups if you just want to pop in. And see what's happening to see if you really want to join on a regular basis or not. Anything else, Mark?
It's me again. So I don't know if I should say this, or Michelle maybe wants to say something about this, but the Ontology Working Group has been working on new tutorial pages for people who are new admins to I2B2. And so hopefully there will be good information there available for people to see by the time of the symposium.
And when those are available, I'll post those on a newsletter, and I'll make sure they're front and center on our website to make sure folks know. Yeah, I sit through those working groups and got a lot of great people putting a lot of time and effort into making sure that we have all the information. So great, that working group is fantastic. So, all right. Anything else? If not, then I wish you all a good day and hope to see you in a few weeks at the symposium in Boston. Bye, everyone.